Hello dear DSC candidates, welcome back to my Grammar for Success channel. I am Koresh Babu, a retired lecturer in English from Hyderabad. In today's video, I am going to teach you about the most important literary terms part 2. In my earlier video, I taught you about as many as 20 literary terms. You know that very well. I hope you have found all of them very useful and helpful to you. Okay, this part 2 video is in continuation of the first video, and in this video I am going to explain as many as 13 literary terms that are very important for your DSC examination. Therefore, I request all of you to watch this video till the end without skipping it in the middle. Thank you so much. Now let's get into the video. So 21st one, conflict. You know, already I have dealt with 20 literary terms, and in this video I am going to deal with 13 more, and therefore the number begins from 21. Okay, and 21st, what is this conflict? Conflict in general English is nothing but a fight or a quarrel or a struggle. So that is there. But what is the meaning of this conflict in a literary work means? Let us see that here. A conflict is nothing but the central struggle or challenge. So, a conflict in a literary work, maybe a drama, maybe a novel, maybe a story, maybe a movie, is nothing but the central struggle or challenge that drives the plot, that makes the plot move forward, that makes the story move forward. So that is there. And here about this conflict, one more important point I have given you here. It can be internal. Internal means within a character. So sometimes the characters will be torn between two things, two dilemmas. For example, a character is there. So that is torn between telling the truth which can punish his beloved, or telling lies to save that beloved. Whether to tell the truth and see that the person is punished, or to tell lies to save that person. So between this telling the truth and telling lies, between these two things, the character will be torn. That's called internal conflict. Sometimes it can be external also. External means against other characters or society or nature. One example for nature I'll give you. Suppose some character is trapped in a violent storm. What does that man do? He will fight with nature to save himself. You know that very well. So that means, the man is fighting with the nature. So where is the fight now? Between this man and that nature. So in that way, that fight is called external. And this fight, whether to tell truth or untruth, is what? Internal fight. So in this way, there are two kinds of conflicts in the literature: internal conflict and external conflict. This internal conflict takes place within a character, whereas the external conflict takes place outside the character against the other characters or society or nature. So that is a very important point. Please keep this point in your mind. And here one example is given. In Lord of the Flies by William Golding, the main conflict is between civilized order and primal instincts. Okay, so between this civilized order, that means between the civilized system and primal instincts. Primal means primitive. Primitive means very old or ancient. Instinct means natural tendencies. So between these two things, there will be some kind of fight, some kind of conflict. Then in this novel of Lord of the Flies, written by William Golding. So it's a fantastic one. So here in this way, a conflict is very important for the development of the plot, for the development of the story. You know that very well. One more example is also given here. The main conflict in 1984, written by George Orwell, is between Winston and the oppressive party. Winston on one side and oppressive party on the other side. So this is called a kind of conflict, okay, between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. There is a fight in sharing the power. There was a fight between these two. That is called a conflict. And now let's move on to learn about other important literary devices. 22nd one, plot is there. Plot. This is a very important aspect of a literary work. You know that very well. What is this plot? A plot is the structured sequence of events in a story. So structured events. So first event, second event, third event, fourth, fifth. All these events are set or put in an order. Okay, this order of the events, okay, is itself called a plot. You know very well. The structured sequence means order, okay, of events in a story. So in a story, the events or the incidents must take place in an order. The first happening in the middle, or the middle one happening at the beginning, or the second one happening at the end. If that is the thing, the story will be incomprehensible to the readers, and therefore the wise writer will keep all the incidents of the story in a systematic order. That is called structured order or structured sequence. That itself is called a plot, usually including exposition. At the beginning of the story, there will be exposition, introduction of the theme of the play or that literary work, introduction of the characters of the play that must take place at the beginning, then rising action. The action must move forward, and the action comes to the climax point, okay, and then falling action after reaching the plot to the climax. From there it starts falling down. That is called falling action. And at last, at the end of the story, there must be some resolution. There must be some conclusion. So in this way, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5. These 5 parts must be arranged in a systematic order. The arrangement of the systematic order of the incidents or events itself is called plot. Okay, you know that very well. And you move on to the example. The plot of Frankenstein by Mary Shelley involves flashbacks, letters to build suspense around Victor's creation. So this is also a beautiful novel written by Mary Shelley, Frankenstein, okay, and it has got all flashbacks and letters. They are all arranged in a systematic way, and so that the story can move forward and the story can appeal to the readers. Okay. One more example is given here. What is that? The plot of J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So this J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter is there, and he follows Harry's discovery of the wizarding world. Wizarding world means world filled with wizards. That means world filled with magic powers. Okay, so that's called. And this Harry, what is that? Discovers the world that is full of magic powers. So that is the plot of this J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So this is a beautiful example of this plot. The plot is set in this novel in a systematic way, and therefore it appealed to millions of readers all over the world. Right, now let's move on to the next important literary term. 23rd one, criticism is there. What is this criticism? Criticism is the analysis. Analysis means a detailed examination, okay, a detailed examination of some complex thing, okay. Complex means very difficult thing in order to understand it. So in order to understand something which is very complex, a detailed examination will be done. That itself is called analysis. You know that very well. And evaluation is there. Evaluation means estimation or wise judgment or assessment, whatever you can call it. So criticism is nothing but the analysis and evaluation of a work of literature, art, performance. So there are so many things, whatever may be a literary work or art or performance or a movie, whatever it is. The critics assess that literary work, how good that is for the people, how valuable the message given in that for the people, how much quality there is in that literary work. So the critics will observe, okay, the quality of the play, the morals of the play. So many aspects they will observe in that literary work. So that's why that is called analysis and evaluation of a literary work or art or performance, exploring themes, how far that theme is relevant to the present time and all that. So symbols are used in that work of literature, how far they are good, structure, how that structure is in that literary work, other elements to understand its significance. So all other items the critics will observe in a work of literature. So they observe the themes, symbols, structure and other elements that are used in that literary work, in order to say that so-and-so work is an excellent work, so-and-so work is average work, so-and-so work is a substandard work, whatever it is. In order to assess or estimate the value of a literary work, the critics will take all these things into consideration and they will decide whether that work of art, whether the work of literature is good or bad or standard or substandard and so on. Right, it is there. So here one example is given. Feminist criticism is there. Feminist means pertaining to women, you know very well. Of Charlotte Brandt's Jane Eyre is there. Focuses on Jane's independence in a patriarchal society. Jane wants to move in the society with full freedom, full independence in the patriarchal society. Patriarchal society means the society dominated by man. That is called patriarchal society. So in that patriarchal society, this Jane wants a full freedom for her. She wants to move in that society with a full freedom. And here, this feminist criticism of Charlotte Brandt's Jane Eyre focuses on this Jane Eyre's freedom or independence in this patriarchal society. Okay, and this is about criticism. One more example is given here. Literary critics examine Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice for themes of class and marriage. So in Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, what happens? The literary critics observe the themes of class. Class, you can say distinction is there. High class and low class. So in the 19th century, when this novel was written, there was class distinction. So that was observed in that novel thoroughly. And here marriages, and always the lower class people wanted to marry the people belonging to the high class. Even that is there even today, because the lower class people think of a better future for them, and that's why they try to woo or that they try to love only the people belonging to the rich families or high caste families or high class families and so on. So about these two things you can find in this Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, isn't it? So this Elizabeth Bennet is there. She belongs to a middle class family, okay, but she loves that Fitzwilliam Darcy, who belongs to the high class of the society. So there is some love between a middle class girl and a high class boy. So that is a kind of story. So here literary critics examine this Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, whether it is relevantly written or not. So this is called criticism. Let's move on to other literary devices. 24th one, discourse. Discourse is nothing but a speech or a talk or a conversation in general English, okay? And here you pay attention, a discourse is a written or spoken form of communication or a conversation, right, that can be used to analyze themes. Okay, this discourse is used to analyze themes, ideology and the structure of the narrative. So this discourse is generally in literature used to analyze the themes of a story, the ideology used in that story and the structure of the story. Narrative means story. So it is used, this discourse is used for this kind of analysis or analyzing the themes, ideology and structure of the narrative. So it is a written or spoken one. You know that very well. Discourse. Different types of discourses are there. Okay. Narrative discourse. Narrative means a discourse pertaining to a story. Descriptive means a discourse describing something. That is called a descriptive narrative. Okay. And here expository discourse is there. What is this expository discourse? The discourse that is intended to explain or describe. So that is called expository discourse. and argumentative discourse. Argumentative discourse means the discourse that is quite contrary or combative or something like that. So in this way, there are several kinds of discourses. Okay, narrative discourse, descriptive discourse, expository discourse, argumentative discourse, and all such discourses are there. The main aim of these discourses is to analyze what the themes, ideology, and the structure of the narratives. So one example I would like to give you here. The Republic is there, written by Plato. In this Republic written by Plato, you can find all dialogues, all discourses rather. Why? In order to tell the people about the value of justice and the value of ideal governance. One more example I think I have given you. Philosophical discourse is there. Philosophical discourse is present in Dostoevsky's The Brothers Karamazov. Okay, this is there. In this you can find philosophical discourse, the speech pertaining to philosophy. That is present in this Dostoevsky, The Brothers Karamazov. Let's move on to learn about other literary devices. 25th one, empathy is there. This is a very important literary term. And what is this empathy? Empathy is the ability to understand, okay, and emotionally connect with others' feelings. So empathy is nothing but understanding the feelings of others and connecting with those feelings. Okay, that means you understand the feelings of the other person, you connect yourself with those feelings. So that kind of thing is called empathy. And here it is often invoked by authors to make readers relate to characters. So here generally most of the writers invoked this empathy. Invoked means made use of this empathy in order to make readers relate to characters. That means in order to make the readers connect with the characters. Relating to characters means connecting with the characters. While reading the story, you will be connecting with the characters of that story, because you understand their feelings and you immediately get connected with that character and you feel you are there in that character. You feel you are that character. That kind of feeling is called empathy. When you read some story, there will be different characters. You understand the feelings of some character and you get connected with that character, and while reading the story you feel that you are there in that character, not that character. You feel that you are only there in that character. You are only doing all those things. So that kind of connection of the reader with the character of the book or the story is called empathy, right? And here, therefore, many authors made use of this wonderful literary device. And here, readers feel empathy for the suffering of Jean Valjean in Victor Hugo's Les Miserables. So, in this novel written by Victor Hugo, what is that? There is a character called Jean Valjean, and he undergoes so many sufferings. And the readers feel empathy for the suffering. They understand the sufferings of this Jean Valjean, first point, and they connect themselves with the sufferings or with that character. And they feel that they were only undergoing those sufferings. They were only experiencing those sufferings. That is the connection that is established by this writer in that novel. So you take any novel, even in the movies also, the audience will get connected with some characters, and they feel the characters are not the characters. You are only there in that character. You are only doing that action. You are only undergoing those sufferings. You are only experiencing those sufferings. You feel like that, and automatically you start weeping or doing something. So you empathize with them. That's called empathy, right? And here one more example is that To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee fosters empathy for marginalized groups through Scout's innocent perspective. So in this, you can find marginalized groups of people. Marginalized people means neglected groups of people, disregarded groups of people, and this Harper Lee created these marginalized groups of people, and through Scout's innocent perspective, and the readers had felt empathy for those marginalized groups. the people belonging to the marginalized groups. Okay, you know that way. So empathy means understanding the feelings of the character and connecting yourself literally with that character. So that kind of connection or that kind of relationship is called empathy, right? 26th one, sympathy is there. Everybody knows. Sympathy is the feeling of pity. Showing some pity for somebody is called sympathy. ఒకని పట్ల జాలి చూపడము, దయ చూపడము, దట్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ సింపతి. అలా కాకుండా ఆ వ్యక్తి యొక్క కష్టాలన్నీ అర్థం చేసుకొని ఆ వ్యక్తితో ఏకీభవిస్తుంటే దట్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ ఎంపతి. సో ఆ కష్టాలని నీవే అనుకొని నువ్వు కూడా అలా అతనితో పాటు బాధపడుతూ ఉండడం, అతనితో పాటు నువ్వు కూడా ఫీల్ అవుతూ ఉంటుంటే దట్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ ఎంపతి. Sympathy is not like that. Just showing pity for somebody, just showing some kind of sorrow for somebody. So here sympathy is nothing but feeling pity or sorrow for someone else's hardships and sufferings. In the hardships of others, in the sufferings of others, just feeling pity or sorrow for that person. That is called sympathy. You know that very well. And one more important point about this is writers often create sympathetic characters to draw readers' compassion and investment in the story. So many writers created sympathetic characters so that the readers can sympathize with those characters, so that the readers can show compassion for them, pity for them, sorrow for them, and in their hardships and sufferings. So that's why now many writers have created many sympathetic characters in their works of literature, right? And here you pay attention, one example. Victor Hugo elicits sympathy. Okay, he makes the readers feel sympathy for Fantine. This is a woman character of that story, that is less miserables due to her suffering and sacrifice. Because of her suffering, because of her sacrifice, this writer makes the readers feel sympathy for this Fantine. Okay, so sympathy is there in the movies also, in Telugu movies, Hindi movies. You take any movies, you sympathize with the characters. Empathizing with the characters is different from sympathizing with the characters. So sympathy means showing pity or sorrow, showing compassion for somebody, in his or in her sufferings or hardships. Now let's move on to learn about other literary devices. Style is there. All of you know very well about this style. What is this style? Style is the unique way. Unique way means very special way an author uses languages. So the special way of using the language is called style. The special way of using the language in that work of literature is called style, including sentence structures. Some sentence structures are really very interesting. You take the writings or essays of Francis Bacon. His sentences are very pithy, very compact, but very meaningful. And they are very interesting. And the tone, okay, and the literary devices to convey their voice and connect with the readers. So many writers maintain their own style of sentence structure, tone, literary devices, and certain special style of attracting the readers to him, to her. Jane Austen's novels are there. She employs a beautiful language in those stories, and beautiful imagery, beautiful literary devices in order to attract the readers, and in order to make the readers keep on reading and reading her books. So that is the style of Jane Austen. So in that way, many writers maintain some kind of style in writing the stories, in writing the novels, in writing the dramas and all that. And here you pay attention, Hemingway's sparse direct style is evident in The Old Man and the Sea. So in this story, this Hemingway maintains what? Some scanty means very meager, మితమైనటువంటి and direct style, okay, in that story, The Old Man and the Sea. This you can find, the sparse style, the direct style in that story, The Old Man and the Sea. So that is the style of this Hemingway. Okay, different writers maintain different styles. Okay, that's why people love to read the books of so-and-so writers immediately. On seeing the name of the writer, you immediately buy that book without seeing the story and all that, because you understand, you know that very well. He maintains some kind of style in his book. Okay, right. That's why now this Hemingway is also of that thought, and here this Hemingway maintains a beautiful style of writing in his stories. And here one more example is there. William Faulkner, stream of consciousness style is there. The sound and the fury conveys complex emotional states. So stream of consciousness style. Stream of consciousness style is what? Presentation of the thoughts of the character as they happen in the mind. మనసులోకి ఆలోచనలు ఎట్లా వస్తే అట్లనే వాటిని ప్రజెంట్ చేయడాన్ని, దట్స్ కాల్డ్ స్ట్రీమ్ ఆఫ్ కాన్షియస్నెస్ స్టైల్. సో దిస్ విలియం ఫాక్నర్ మెయింటైన్స్ దట్ stream of consciousness style in the story, the sound and the fury, in order to convey complex emotional states. Why does the writer make use of this stream of consciousness style in this story? Means in order to convey complex emotional states of the characters, right? And now you move on to learn about the next literary device. 28th one is there. What is this? Theatre. What is this theatre? Theatre means immediately you understand it is a building or a room or some outside place used for performing some dramas or some movies and all that. So that's called a theatre. Okay. Right, and this has got one more meaning. Theatre has one meaning, that's a building used for performing plays or movies, that you know very well. And another meaning is also there to this. What is that? The activity of writing plays is also called theatre. And now let us look at the definition. Theatre is a branch of performing arts that involves live performance of stories, often incorporating acting, music, dance and stage craft. So this called the activity of performing dramas, the activity of writing dramas. These two things, you know, the activity of writing dramas, the activity of performing dramas is also called theatre. So generally, you know, that involves live performances. A couple of weeks ago, we happened to go to Gatlinburg, that is in Tennessee, where we wanted to see the beauty of Smoky Mountains and all that. So there we happened to go to some place where in the afternoon 3 girls came. They were the witches. So they performed a live show in front of all the audience. That was so fantastic and all that. So that's called, you know, here the activity of performing arts that involves live performances of stories. The live performance of the story, the activity of performing live dramas, live stories, that is called theatre. Okay, and here Hamlet is there by Shakespeare, is a play meant for the theatre. So it is meant for the live action on the stage. It is not meant for reading, but it is meant for performing on the stage. Okay, second example is that just like this Hamlet, Death of a Salesman is there. It is written by Arthur Miller, and in this, you know, set design and staging to emphasize Willy Loman's disillusionment. Disillusionment means a feeling of disappointment. This Arthur Miller writes this scene for stage enactment or stage performance. Okay, and you go to the next important literary device. Soliloquy is a monologue. Mono means single, by one person. Log means speech. Speech made by one person is therefore called a monologue. Is a play where a character speaks his inner thoughts aloud, usually while alone, to reveal his personal reflections to the audience. So in order to introduce what is passing through his mind, you know, the character comes onto the stage and reveals his mind to the audience when there is no other character on the stage. So that speech made all alone on the stage is called soliloquy. Okay, and here they are very frequently used by Shakespeare in his plays, and the soliloquies are made use of in the dramas of Shakespeare very extensively, right? Hamlet's to be or not to be soliloquy in Hamlet. This is a famous soliloquy, and this Hamlet comes onto the stage. All the audience will be watching that drama of Hamlet, and the character of Hamlet comes onto the stage, and you know, he'll be revealing his mind, revealing his thoughts to the audience. So there are no other characters on the stage. He is all alone on the stage. He reveals his mind, he reveals his thoughts, he reveals his feelings to the audience. Okay, so that is called soliloquy, right? And here Lady Macbeth's soliloquy is there, reveals her ambition and guilt in Macbeth. So these two examples are there. And now you move on to the next literary device. 30th one, feminism is there. What is this feminism? Feminism is a movement for social, political and economic equality of the women. Okay, so that itself is called feminism. Feminism is nothing but a movement meant for social, political, economic equality of the women. That is there, often reflected in literature as themes or characters, portrayals that challenge gender roles. So this feminism is also introduced in literature, just like themes or character portrayals that challenge gender roles. Okay, so that drama or novel or anything, that character will be opposing that male dominance and male partner and all that. So in order to challenge the gender roles, some writers have created certain characters that opposed the male domination and all that. So that's called feminism. Feminism is meant for social, political and economic equality of the women. And here you pay attention, The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood is often discussed in feminist context. So this is a feminist novel written by Margaret Atwood. And here you go to the next example, The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath addresses female identity and societal expectations. In this novel, written by Sylvia Plath, you can find a kind of struggle for female identity. Female identity means female recognition and other societal expectations for the women. Okay, women are also equal with men, something like that. Both men and women in the society are of equal status or equal rank. So they are no way less than men or like that. They are no way inferior to men, something like that. So when men are superior and women are inferior, that kind of attitude is to be avoided in the society. So for the removal of such attitude from the minds of the people, several novels, dramas, stories were written, and all such literature is called feminist literature, and you know that very well. And now we move on to the next important literary device. 31st one, folklore is there. What is this folklore? Folklore is the collection of traditional beliefs, stories, okay, and customs and practices of a culture. That is very important. So the folklore is nothing but the collection of traditional beliefs, okay, traditional stories, customs and practices of some culture, of some community, of some region and so on, and they are carried down through generations. So they are just carried down or passed down from one generation to another generation. Okay, such traditional beliefs, stories, sayings, customs and such are called folklore, and here they are often reflected in literature through myths. Okay, they are often reflected as myths, legends and folk tales. Okay, these traditional beliefs, stories, customs and practices are generally reflected in the literature. That means in the works of literature through myths, legends and folk tales. Now let us take up one example to understand this one. The Arabian Nights are there. Incorporates folklore from the Middle East, including tales of Aladdin and Sindbad. You know very well about the stories of Aladdin and Sindbad. So all the stories pertaining to Aladdin and Sindbad are called the Arabian Nights, and they are included in the work of literature. Okay, that is also a kind of literature, and that literature is called folklore. And another example is given here. The Brothers Grimm collected folklore in Grimm's fairy tales. Okay, in Grimm's fairy tales. So this Brothers Grimm collected all the folklore in the book called Grimm's fairy tales. There is an Irish folklore. According to that, what happens, the banshee. Okay, so that is the name of that a spirit this is a spirit. Okay, this spirit is said to be wailing to foretell the death of the member of a family. So this comes and wails in that street or something like that. Okay, that is a kind of folklore. And this banshee, this spirit is depicted as a woman who is dressed in white with long and flowing hair and all that. So some description is also given about that banshee, the spirit. What does this banshee do? She wails to foretell that so-and-so person in so-and-so family is going to die sooner or later. So that is indicated by this spirit banshee. So this is a kind of folklore. It may be believable or unbelievable, but it is a story. It is a story in the Irish folklore. Okay, right. So here also I have given these two examples. So now let's move on to learn about the next literary term. That is second one, structure is there. This is the last but one literary term. What is this structure? Let us see what it is. Structure is the organization and arrangement of ideas, okay, events or elements in a literary work. Structure is nothing but the systematic arrangement of ideas, events, elements in a literary work. So you know very well about the plot. So what is this plot? It is also a systematic arrangement of events. Okay, first introduction of the theme and characters. Next rising action. Next climax. Next falling action. Next what is that, conclusion. So that is all about plot. Okay, plot is also the systematic arrangement of events of that story. So that's very important. But here it is the systematic arrangement of ideas. It is a systematic arrangements of events and other elements in a literary work. So many things you use in this structure. So let us see that here. It includes chapters. Okay, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4. So this is one aspect. They should be arranged in a proper order. You cannot introduce the third chapter at the beginning and the first chapter in the middle or something like that. You cannot do. Okay, it should be in an order. First chapter, second chapter, third chapter, fourth chapter. Similarly, acts are also there. Act 1, 2, 3, 4. You cannot introduce the act 5 at the beginning and act 1 at the end or something like that. You cannot arrange all of them in that misorder. Okay, and therefore stanzas are also there. After first stanza, then the second stanza, third stanza. So here these are all the elements in a literary work. The ideas or events or elements. So these acts, sub-chapters, acts, stanzas, all these things in a literary work must be arranged in a systematic way. So the systematic arrangement of these things itself is called a structure, and they contribute to the pacing and flow of the story. So if they are properly arranged, that story, that literary work appeals to the readers. They can read that story without any confusion, and the story will be moving on very smoothly and without any obstruction, without any problem, right? And for that purpose, any writer must see that the story is written in a systematic order. So that order itself is called structure. Okay, one example is given here for you. Frankenstein is there. Frankenstein, written by Mary Shelley, and in this novel there is a frame structure with stories within stories. So a story is there, within that story another story, within that story another. So that is this is written in a systematic way. In order not to confuse the readers, that was arranged in a systematic way. Different writers will be writing different stories, novels and all that, but they don't try to confuse the readers. If the readers get confused, the readers don't read that novel or that story. So that is why the writers take every measure not to confuse the readers, and therefore they arrange all the elements of that literary work in a systematic order. That systematic arrangement of elements in that literary work itself is called structure. Okay, and in this Mary Shelley's book also you can find all the stories within stories were arranged in a systematic way. That is the point you have to understand. Now let's move on to learn about the last literary term. Okay, right. Allegory is also there. Allegory is also a literary term or a literary device. You know very well. What is this allegory? Let us see that. An allegory is a story where characters, events and settings symbolize abstract concepts. So it is a story. Okay, it is a story where characters, events, settings symbolize abstract concepts. So in that work of literature, the characters and events and settings, all of them symbolize some abstract concepts. So I'll give you one example to make you understand that. By often delivering some moral or a philosophical lesson, the aim of this allegory is to convey some moral or some message to the readers. That's very important. For example, John Bunyan's famous example. John Bunyan is there, and he has written a beautiful book called The Pilgrim's Progress. Pilgrim's Progress. This is a beautiful book, and in this book, there is a person called Christian. See that time? There is a person called Christian, and he lives in a city of destruction. See that? The name of the city is like this: the city of destruction. See, destruction is the name of that city. This Christian, the name of this person is Christian. He lives in the city of destruction. And one day what happens, he learns from a person called evangelist. Evangelist. This person tells this Christian how he can get salvation. And after learning how to get salvation, this Christian starts on his devotional journey. And on the way, what happens? He meets two persons. One is Mr. Faithful. See that? See the character. This is an abstract concept. This is the character in this. He meets Mr. Faithful and Mr. Hopeful. See, this is another person. So on his journey, he meets these two persons. See here, all the characters in this story are nothing but abstract ideas, abstract concepts. See, faith, hope, Christianity, destruction, evangelism. So these are all what the abstract concepts. So using these abstract concepts, this story is conveyed, and at the end of the story, what happens? A moral message or a philosophical lesson. Lesson means message is conveyed to the readers. I can give this John Bunyan's The Pilgrim's Progress as an example for allegory, and Absalom, Achitophel is also there, and animal farm is also there. It's an allegory. So like that. And here allegorical plays use symbolic characters. These are all the symbolic characters and scenarios to explore deeper meanings and universal truths. So in order to explore deeper meanings and universal truths, the writers make use of symbolic characters. These are all the symbolic characters. You see, the name of the city is City of Destruction. The name of the person is Christian. The name of the friends he meets on the way are Mr. Faithful and Mr. Hopeful. And one example I would like to give you here. Ben Jonson's The Alchemist is there, 1610, uses characters that embody human vices and folly. Embody means to enter into human vices. Vices means evils or ills and all that. Folly means some stupidity, such as greed, such gullibility. Greed means avarice, durasha. You know that very well. Gullibility means easily trusting nature. Through these characters, Ben Jonson satirizes society's obsession with wealth and deception. See, through these characters in this Alchemist, Ben Jonson satirizes. Satirizing means mocking at. He is laughing at or criticizing the society's obsession. Obsession means always thinking about something is called obsession. దాని గురించి పదే ఎప్పటికీ అదే ఆలోచిస్తూ ఉంటుంటే దట్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ అబ్సెషన్. So in those days the people were obsessed with wealth and deception. They were always thinking about wealth. They were always thinking about deception. So in this story, this Ben Jonson satirizes the society's obsession, the people's obsession with wealth and deception. So it is a very interesting book, and this is a good example for this allegory. So now with this all the literary terms will come to an end, and now we are going to attempt a small exercise. Okay, multiple choice questions on the literary terms. On all these 32 or 33 literary terms, I have composed these questions for you. If you can answer all these questions correctly, then you must think you were able to understand all the literary terms that I have explained in these two videos, part 1 and part 2 videos. Okay, and if you cannot can answer any of these questions, then you must think you have not properly understood that particular literary term. If you find any difficulty in understanding any of the literary terms I have explained in this video, please make a mention of it in the comment section. I am again ready to explain it to you. Okay, and please make use of my selfless and sincere services. Okay, I am for you. I am working for your success. Please try to support me, try to encourage me. Thank you very much. Now I read the question and also the options given under that. Okay, that much only I can do. You only should understand that question, and you only should choose the correct option or correct answer. Okay, right. And now you go to the first question. Which of the following best defines parallelism? What is that parallelism? The repetition of consonant sounds at the beginning of words, a humorous imitation of another work, the use of similar grammatical structures to create rhythm or emphasize ideas, a direct comparison between two unlike things. So you know the correct answer and you choose it. Okay, and you go to the next question. What is the purpose of a prologue in a story? Right. So to conclude the story, to introduce the setting and background, to create suspense at the end, to provide the moral of the story. So these are the two questions. Now let's move on to other questions. Third question. Epilogue is typically found at which part of a story? Beginning, middle, end, none of the above. Setting includes which of the following? Time and place of the story, conflict and plot, character names, genre of the story. Right. In literature, a character can be defined as the main conflict of the story, the individuals involved in the narrative, the underlying theme, the structure of the poem. Right. Meter in poetry refers to the rhyme scheme of a stanza, the style of the language, the rhythmic structure of a line, the moral lesson of a poem. You choose the right one. Now we move on to other questions. Diction in literature refers to the plot structure, the choice of words and style of expression, the historical setting, the ending of the story. Right. Imagery appeals primarily to which of the following? Logic, characters' opinions, historical facts, the senses. Okay, let's move on to other questions. Prosody is mainly concerned with character development, plot structure, rhythm and sound in poetry, moral messages. Okay, and go to the next question. Point of view in literature is what? The setting of the story, the perspective from which the story is told, the conflict in the story, the structure of the poem. Right. Now you move on to other questions. 11th one. Epic poetry typically involves what? Trivial and humorous subjects, satirical commentary, daily life routines, heroic deeds and adventures. Okay. 12th question. A mock epic is best described as a long poem about heroism, a satirical work that uses epic conventions, a short poem about a tragedy, a lyrical expression of love. Now you go to other questions. 13th one, choreography in theatre refers to the arrangement of musical notes, the order of character speeches, the movement of actors on stage, the written script. What does this choreography mean in theatre? Theatre means drama, right? The arrangement of musical notes, the order of character speeches, the movement of actors on stage, the written script, you know that very well. And you go to the next question. Narration refers to what? The dialogue between characters, the climax of the plot, the characters' personalities, the method of telling the story. Now we move to other questions. 15th one, a classic is a work that, it's a work, what is that work? Has a lasting value and a universal themes, is recently published, only appeals to young readers, uses modern language styles. You know the right one and you tick it. You go to the next question. In Greek drama, the chorus serves to what? Is participate in the main action, provide background and commentary, act as the antagonist, introduce comic relief. So now you move on to other questions. 17th one, comedy as a genre is primarily aimed at creating suspense and fear, evoking laughter and amusement, exploring supernatural themes, portraying tragedy. You know the answer. You move on to the next question. Tragedy often involves a happy ending, a protagonist's downfall, a humorous theme, light-hearted characters. Right. Now you go to other questions. 19th one, conflict in a story refers to the setting and time, the primary struggle faced by the protagonist, the description of characters, the story's theme. Right. Next question. Plot is best described as the sequence of events in a story, the setting details, the point of view used, the mood of the story. Now you move on to other questions. 21st question. Criticism in literature refers to, what is criticism? The art of storytelling, analyzing and evaluating literary works, writing about a character's emotions, setting up conflicts in the plot. Right. And discourse in a literary context means, the meaning of this in general language is speech, talk, conversation. But here in literary context, it means some communication. Maybe it is the written communication or the spoken communication. Communication means conveying something, okay, giving some message, okay. That is called discourse, okay, right. So discourse in a literary context means what? Okay, here you pay attention. The plot development, the spoken or written communication of ideas, the main conflict, the climax of a story. So this is there. Now you move on to other questions. 23rd one, empathy in literature allows readers to laugh at a character's misfortune, predict the story's ending, analyze a character's decisions, understand and share a character's feelings. 24th one, sympathy in a story often makes readers feel what? Pity or compassion for a character's plight. Plight means sufferings or problems and all that. Jealousy toward a character, confusion about the plot, disinterest in the story. You move on to other questions. 25th one, style in writing refers to is the genre of the work, the author's unique use of language and structure, the moral of the story, the setting of the plot. 26th question, theatre primarily involves written novels and poems, historical essays, live performances by actors, and epic poetry. So I gave you one example also when I went to Gatlinburg to see the beauty of Smoky Mountains. 3 girls came, calling themselves witches, performed a live show in front of the audience. So that a live performance by the actors in front of the audience itself is called a theater. I gave that example at the time of teaching you about that theater. Okay, and here epic poetry. These are the options given. You choose the right one and you go to other questions. 27th one, feminism in literature focuses on, you know about this feminism. At the time of, I have given you a beautiful idea about the feminism. Feminism is nothing but a belief that the women should be given equal rights and opportunities as men. Feminism means that, and feminist movement means, you know that very well. So demanding for equal rights and opportunities for women. So that is called feminist movement. And feminism means this. So feminism in literature focuses on, you know very well, gender equality and women's rights, environmental themes, comic relief in stories, character conflicts and all that. I go to the next question. So a soliloquy is what? A speech delivered to another character. A part of the setting description, a dialogue exchange between characters, a monologue where a character speaks his thoughts alone. Right. You move on to other questions. 29th one. Folklore consists of scientific facts, traditional stories and customs, modern poems, biographical details. 30th one, the structure of a literary work refers to the organization of its plot and sections, the type of characters involved, the setting details, the style of dialogue. So you know very well what this structure means, right? And you go to other questions. 31st one, low comedy is best characterized by, you know about the two kinds of comedy, low comedy, high comedy. Low comedy is best characterized by witty wordplay and intellectual humor, humor based on physical antics and exaggerated situations, a satirical take on society and morals, clever dialogue and intricate plots. Okay. I go to the next question. 32nd one. Which of the following is an example of high comedy? High comedy, what is that example? Okay, The Three Stooges, A Midsummer Night's Dream by William Shakespeare, The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde, Tom and Jerry. So all these examples are given. In the video also, I gave you one wonderful example. The best example for high comedy is what? So that was mentioned there. You please check that and then you answer this question. And you move on to the last set of questions. That is third question. Which of the following best describes an allegory? What is an allegory? A story where characters represent abstract ideas or concepts. A story that strictly follows historical events. A story focused solely on character development. A story with a clear and moral ending. So all these options are given. You choose the right one. Right. You go to the last question. In an allegory, the author often uses what? Yes. What does he use? Complex metaphors that conceal the main plot. Characters and events that symbolize moral or philosophical ideas. Language that is simple and direct. Only factual events. So with this, this small exercise will come to an end. Now I'll give you the answers for all these questions. Okay. Answers are given here for the questions from 1 to 16 and answers are also given for the questions from 17 to 34. So just you check all these answers with your answers. Hello dear DSC candidates, thank you so much for watching this beautiful video, very useful and helpful video. And if you have any problem in understanding any of the literary terms that I have explained in these two videos, part 1 and part 2 videos, you please make a mention of it in the comment section. I am ready to explain it once again so that you can understand it very easily. Okay, right. And with another beautiful video, I shall be back to you. Until then, bye, see you. I love you.